And we are live. I'll just tell everyone that we're live.
Great. Hi, everyone. See folks joining. Yay. We have a very nice comment that I love Gabriella and Kirsten did such a great job in the commentating for the world stream. So already got people that are excited.
Thank you.
Thanks.
How did you watch both at the same time, though? That is my main question.
I've only gone back to so the competition that I couldn't really watch at all myself live was the end of the men's free skate, because I was in the mix zone and I was running around and I was doing 20 things at once. And so that's the one thing that I went back and watched. So I've heard Kirsten's commentary for maybe the last 5 men, which was great. But that's all that I've heard, because otherwise I was in the arena.
You were there. You must have seen Dennis live.
Yes, I saw Dennis live and then went downstairs to talk to him, and then watched a good portion of the rest of the competition with Stefan in the mix zone next to me, because I was trying to hold on to him so that I could take a picture of all of Team Champery together Dennis was in the leader chair. So I had a live commentary about 4 or 5 of the men with Stefan's commentary next to me, which was very funny. And then as everyone was coming through after that point, then it turned into Adam and Kevin were in the mix zone at the same time, and that was kind of fun to watch, their interactions with each other. And so it's the point where there's a TV over there that you can watch, and I'm trying to watch and pay attention to what's going on, but all I can do is there's also 20 Japanese reporters watching Yuma, so I can only tell what's going on by their body language. And
yeah,
that's why I had to catch up afterwards. I tried to watch as much of the free skates as I could from in the building, but it's always challenging.
Yeah, I was really thinking of you when, in the moment when Dennis was slaying. She's like, oh my gosh, Anna must be so happy. This is Anna's best day, I'm sure.
I was. Thank you for thinking of me. I was very happy. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start with ice dance.
So, do you want to read off the podium?
Yeah, I'll start. Gold, we have Madison Chock and Evan Bates. Silver, we have Piper Gillies and Paul Poirier. And bronze, we have Lila Fayette and Lewis Gibson. And congrats to Lionel Lewis for being the first British world medalist since Torvill and Dean in 1984.
I felt like this was the most exciting and unexpected ice dance competition that I watched in a while. There was a lot of drama.
Sure.
Especially, I thought in the rhythm dance, it was such a large group that was going to be cut. I think there were 36 and only 20 in the free, and there were so many. I mean, from my perspective, Gabby can speak to it, more knowledgeable perspective for sure. But it seemed like there were so many teams that were in that kind of group that could potentially be cut, that I felt stressed watching the rhythm dance. I can't imagine how they felt. And then there was, for dance, it felt like some considerable movement in the free. So it was fun. It was a fun event.
Yeah, I was really I had no idea. I mean, not no idea. Of course, I had ideas, but I guess it was because of the season, things got shaken a lot. Especially Piper and Paul at the beginning, entering the season, I was for sure they're gonna, they're entering the season as favorites. Parts of favorites with Maddie and Evan, it's really going to be a competition between the two. But then the Grand Prix final happened. I was oh no, what happened there? I'm not sure about anything anymore. Maddie and Evan are really clear favorites now. And then the four continents. 4 continents happened. I was wait, what? Now, considering everything now, really, there's a huge competition for the first place. So it was really that entering. So I was really I have no idea. And then, and then again for the third place, I guess I was expecting a competition between Maddie and Evan and Piper and Paul for the gold and silver. And then for the bronze medal, there was also something that was unclear because I feel like the last couple of years, Marco and Charlene were really just like strong podium contender, and then the whole season got shaken up as well, and then Lila and Riz kind of popped out, not out of nowhere, but more surprisingly than other teams. So it was just really that whole thing, and then it didn't disappoint, I guess.
Totally.
And then it also like how different the result for the free dance was compared to the end result was also very different. So that was exciting.
Yeah, like
usually
Lila Lewis were 6th in the free.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lewis.
That's fine. I was going to say, usually ice dance ordinals are pretty kind of standard. Usually they'll kind of follow each other, but everyone was kind of moving up and down. It was very interesting.
Yeah, and the free dance scoring is just so strong that usually it just plays so much into the end result. But that was surprising that it didn't as much as usual.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite, Gabby?
Oh, do I have a favorite? I mean, I think Maddie and Evan deserve to win because they're just very, very strong now. I do, of course, I always do have a soft spot for Piper and Paul because I always enjoy their programs so much, and I think they just like, they're just so creative with what they like. Honestly, this free dance, it's like I'm always joking where it's like you see the list of the music before the skate and you're like, what is going on there? Like there's like back Annie Lennox and some tango. You're like, what is this?
Yeah.
But somehow they make it work, and you're like, how did you make that work? But it works. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed that free dance like all season long, and then I think Olivia and Tim's free dance was just like incredible, especially like performed live. The audience was just like so into it. Like being in that room was just so special. But yeah, it was fun.
I love Piper and Paul's free dance this year, and it was funny because I loved them so much, and I loved the Yulia Matthias's tango, and so then when I was seeing both of them back to back, I kept thinking like, oh, but like as a tango, I like this tango better, but then I like the whole program for Piper and Paul so much, so I was glad that they weren't actually so close to each other in the competition, because I was like, I really love both programs and both teams, and I felt like they both like were in some ways a little better with space between and not like direct tango to tango comparison. But
yeah, I love in Piper and Paul's how their one foot is on different feet and mirrored edges. Like, so I feel they do things that are innovative and different and continue to do that every year, and sometimes it's more effective, I think, than other times. And I think even if we spoke to them, they would probably say sometimes it's rewarded more. Mm-hmm. There are some years it's rewarded more than other years, but felt like as a whole in the dance event, we really were treated to like different styles and interpretations and like units of movement that varied so much. Like Gabby talks about Olivia and Tim, and that was a highlight for me. It's very possible I'm a little bit biased, but I also think the program is amazing. And I liked also Green and Parsons right after, but the contrast was crazy. Like Caroline and Michael it was quiet. And sometimes I think there's beauty in silence as well. And it felt really special that we got to see these things directly, or these programs directly one after another, and hopefully could appreciate them for their differences, but also what makes them both so special. Yeah, and that was something like when I listened to Gabby at US Nationals, which was where I did a lot of my ice dance studying, just like notes. What does Gabby think? You talked about that as well at US Nationals, and it makes so much sense to me when we're looking at each team uniquely and differently, and why what they each bring. That's okay. What they each bring to the event is important. for me.
I was happy that Michael and Caroline, were able to place pretty well here and really kind of keep themselves up in that conversation. I think that their free dance this year is a really great vehicle, and like it shows their strengths so well. And this was the first time that I was seeing it live, and they have a lift that they are doing pretty much to silence in the middle of the program, sort of as the music is changing. And I thought that was so effective, but also really quite brave to go with a program that is kind of more subtle and understated, and that they're not trying to just pursue sort of the most obvious choices with their program. So, I mean, I think that's another thing where like sometimes that's going to land and sometimes it's not going to. And like, how will a giant arena like actually respond to something that is trying to be, more subtle and emotional and not so much like telling a dramatic story. And there's not like one thing that's right or wrong, but sometimes I think like I'm hoping they can keep that idea, like even going into next year in the Olympics, because I feel like there's often this pressure to be like, well, you have to have the most obvious, easily understood and easily likable program for the Olympic season. And I kind of actually I think it was sort of similar with them and Piper and Paul. I appreciate that they don't always make it easy for us to immediately understand what they're going for, and you have to kind of watch it grow and learn with them about it.
And could that be like, maybe Gabby can speak to this, but could that be a difficult skill to master too? Like, say if you give someone an obvious piece of music to portray, it's still hard, especially when they're doing all these technical elements. But when it's a little bit more ambiguous in its idea, I think it takes a strong performer to tell that story in a way that isn't, the lyrics aren't necessarily telling the viewer. And so that is something that impresses me, just based on, even if I look at it from a pair perspective, which is obviously very different than ice dance, but it's really hard to tell a story effectively when the words aren't telling you what you're supposed to feel.
Yeah. I think so. I think it's always a tough balance to find, because, for example, Olivia and Tim program was incredible. However, if imagine Dune was out of the table. Imagine that it was just a random music with random costumes. Would it have been that good? It would have been good. I don't know that the audience would have connected as much to it.
Interesting.
And it was very good, and it's very difficult, I think, to portray. It's also difficult to portray a story that's already been told somewhere else, whether it's Dune or even Carmen or something. It's very difficult. But I think it's true that it especially in terms of like how the audience relates to it, how even the judge understand what's going on. They already have a preconceived idea of like, okay, that's the story that they're going to try and tell us. And so they don't need to be like, okay, what's going on, because so much is already pre-told. So I think, and at the same time, then you have Christina and Anthony that were doing Carmen, and here it's like almost the opposite, where it's just such a strong story that you really have to be really, really good at telling it, because there's just the expectation is so high for Carmen that you really have to be to have to be really good. So I think it's like a very different it's kind of both. I think I think, okay, maybe I would say I think it might be easier in a way to skate on a music that is just on, that there's no story to it. There's no, a bit like Caroline and Michael are doing. But it's hard to make it memorable. So both.
And I think this audience in Boston was very receptive to strong music choices, like standing ovation for Kurakova doing Cats. Like if it was music they immediately recognized, they were kind of more bought in to the programs that people were doing.
Yeah.
I really appreciated, Gabby, that you actually explained the plot of Carmen, though, during the
That's
US
what I was going to say. I was just like, tell me what's happening. Tell me exactly what is happening. I want to know.
Just like, I was like, there's seduction and death, and that was like all that I knew about Carmen.
Right.
And I mean, all these years of watching figure skating programs, I don't actually know the story of Carmen, so I was like, you actually explained it, and that was fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you.
It was so good. It actually was so good. I had like Christine and Anthony and writing down what is happening. And then it actually it gave me the idea to like talk to people, like, tell me exactly what's your story in your, like, how am I supposed to feel? And that can obviously help from a commentator perspective. But I agree that was such amazing broadcast work, truly.
To be fair, I cheated a bit. I was in London, Ontario a bit before that.
That's not cheating. That's research. It's not cheating. It's research. That's effectively telling the correct story.
No, but also it's also not saying that singles and pairs don't bring that to their programs, but it's also so present and important in ice dance. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't understand, that don't follow skating or whatever. They're like, well, they're not jumping. They're not doing, they're not doing all the crazy things that all the other disciplines are doing. So what am I looking at? And it's, of course, it's hard to be like, no, but listen, look at this rocker, look at this bracket, which is interesting, but might not be that interesting for someone who's, barely ever watched skating before. So I think the storytelling is just so, and it's also as a skater, it was also such an important part of what I was doing and why I was doing it, that I also wanted to share that with people watching, because I just love that. And I think it's the case for so many. They didn't choose Carmen just because the music sounded nice. They chose it because they really wanted to portray that story and that and explore themselves as even just performers, but like almost actors and storytellers. So it's fun to share that.
And I feel like this program took them to another level from a performance standpoint too. I thought it was so good. I was so mad at those LED boards for not letting her kick them. It's my favorite part. I was so upset that we did not get to see it. But I saw Maddie and was just like, she should have just done it. But obviously she shouldn't have done it. That was a good choice.
It would be very funny if there was just a broken LED.
Can you imagine? I think most people in the building would be like, that makes sense. We needed that as a part of this free dance. I loved it. I loved it so much for them. And I really felt like she embodied Carmen, some of my favorite parts. And I know that you also said this, Gabby, at US Nationals, that they were trying to create choreography that was in keeping with the story. And like the assisted jumps, for example, sometimes teams do assisted jumps and you're like, oh yeah, we're jumping. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. But I think that's such an example of a good team who makes that a piece of choreography and weaves it into a story. And I just loved it so much. I thought it was incredible. Such a good program for them.
Yeah, and it's funny because they have been wanting to skate on Carmen for a really long time, and they decided that this year was the right time. But all of the other coaches were like, I don't know. Oh man, people keep
very popular.
Sorry. I have no idea how to turn like calls. It's just people on WhatsApp. Sorry, where are you now? Okay. And then like the coaches were like, I don't know, I don't know that suits you. I don't know that you have what it takes, like not as like a mean thing, but more like, I don't know that fits who you are really. And that, you're like maybe more soft, or maybe, like, can you really bring that fire to the ice? And they were like, well, there's one way to find out. And also I think they did it also as like a character development thing, where they were like, well, yeah, it's true, we might not have that fire now, but if we work on it for a whole year, we might get there, and then we'll have it for the rest of our career. And I think that's really what happened. So I don't think that they really, well, I don't want to say that they didn't have it, but it was not an obvious choice for them. It was not, it was not an obvious fit. But now you know, now they have it forever. Now they can bring it to other programs, you know, they can bring that like Carmen passion to other freedance that they do. So I think you know, it was a surprising thing, surprising choice, but it worked out.
I think it's a good developmental choice, like after doing like Perfume Story of a Murderer, like where like she's kind of like the victim and now like she's kind of the one in control. It's good for them to work on those different roles.
It must be hard to choose something that your coach did extremely well also.
Yeah.
You know? That feels like a lot of pressure to me, but honestly, I thought they nailed it. I loved it so much. I saw it get better throughout the season, and you're right, now they have this character that's like just another direction in their like tool belt that they can draw on, which is cool.
Yeah, and I think it was also very interesting that, sorry, now it's a podcast, it's a live about Kristen and Anthony. No, but I think it's also it was also interesting because it was not an obvious choice for them. They kind of especially they played with Christina, they were like, you know, like the whole team, and I remember them talking about it, and it was like, okay, she's not naturally who you would think as like crazy Carmen, you know, like passionate, what I imagine like how Penelope Cruz would play Carmen, for example. You know, she's not that person, but who says Carmen has to be that? You know, and she, you know, like and I think with the costume they played a lot more with her like gypsy background instead of pure, you know, red, like hot blood Spanish. They played more with like the gypsy cheeky version of Carmen, which I think was also very smart, and is also what separates them from all the Carmens that have been done before and that are usually done. It's like, well, actually, we've all done Carmen that way forever. But why though? Like, was she really like that? Who says she was like that? That's just an interpretation of the character, not. But we can play her in many different ways. Not to say that she didn't bring that passion, because she did, but in her own way. And I think that was also what separated them from, like, for example, the one that Descent Scott did, or many other people.
I love when teams or skaters are able to kind of go back to that. It's like going back to the source material and finding other like elements that they can bring into it, because then like there's, if the source material is like rich enough and that's why people want to keep skating to it, then you're not sort of just skating to like the, you know, the copy of the copy of the copy that you've seen on the ice. You're kind of, you're going back and pulling more from it. And I really appreciated that. And I was thinking about going all the way back to the thinking about assisted jumps. I was thinking about the chorus line program that Yuka and Yuho do, which has like the, you know, big chorus line, like the chorus line number and like the very much like jazz hands part of it, but they managed to also sort of include other pieces of storytelling. And I actually love the little like ballet assisted jumps that they have that are these sort of, you know, it's just this little interlude in the middle of the program where it kind of goes off in a little direction, then it comes back. And I thought that was really clever that they were trying something that was like, it's obviously part of the story and part of the music, but it's not like quite as obvious everyone would have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the humor in it too. I feel like it's not something that we see a lot, humor in like an ice dance program. Usually it's just so, you know, it's taken so seriously. And to be fair, humor is so difficult. That, you know, those like, they had a lot of that. They had a lot of, you know, little humor sprinkled here and there, which was, I think, really clever, and that made it very memorable.
And
they're a team that makes me want to like be on the ice skating with them or like having fun with them. They like just really draw me in, and I appreciate that they're like, she's such an amazing performer, but he's also giving like 110% all the time. And I I did an interview with Massimo Scali about his work with both of the Finnish teams and with Alyssa, and it was really interesting because I was thinking like, okay, a couple of my favorite, he did a couple of my favorite programs, but very different programs from each other for very different teams. And like he was talking about the way with both of the Finnish teams, a couple of the most iconic, like sort of the things that stuck with me as like, oh, this moment from this program were things that had really come about like almost as accidents by sort of letting the teams like be playing around and doing things like the choreo lift for Yulia and Matthias, where she's down on his, like kneeling on his skate. Came about like first as an accident while doing something else, and then like, oh, that looks cool, and like let's try that. And so it was kind of interesting to see like even the teams that you might think of as being very like precise and structured also like we're getting some of their best ideas from that process.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fun. Who else?
I'm sorry for Allison, and I was just
yes,
gonna say,
as Laura said,
like,
I'm sad for Allison. And
it is so sad.
Yeah, it's like with them and Yulia and Matisse in the rhythm dance, it was just like almost like whiplash. It's just like you're speechless that once happened and then it happens again.
Yeah.
I hate that it's like it almost kind of statistically ended up for the better, because obviously if Yulia and Matisse didn't make the free, then there would only be one Finnish spot. Definitely. We obviously don't know what's happening with Yuka's citizenship yet, but she has the possibility of it. And obviously they now have the 2 spots.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that the Lithuanians are going to get the spot in Beijing with the competition that will be there. So, and it obviously seemed like she'd injured herself a bit in the rhythm dance as well. So I'm not sure it would have gone as well in the free dance if they had made it. So I'm just, while it's awful what happened, I feel like it almost ended up the best circumstances out of the bad situation.
The irony was not lost on me though, that that they qualified for the last Olympics with no citizenship, and now finally in December it's like a huge weight off their shoulders, and it should have been so easy in theory for them to just like skate normal and be in the top 19. So it was just like, oh my god, like it's just awful. I felt bad for them, but you're right, like
she like tried to get a citizenship twice, I think, and she got rejected twice.
Many times, they just always said no.
And finally, in December, 3 months ago, she gets it, and I was just like, "You've got to be kidding me with this!" But you're right, Lois. Like they should go to China, and should be no issue at all. But that's just not ideal. Like you don't want to think about that for the spring. Exactly. That's garbage.
You have to prepare all summer for that competition now, and then you have to prepare again for the Olympics.
Like it adds to. Like she's gonna write a great book someday.
Truly.
But for sure.
No, the persistence that she's had to have.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Anna.
No, just saying the persistence she's had to have is
yeah.
I loved so much Mrazek. I hadn't really seen them live. And one of the first practices, they got on the ice, and they must have been first in the music rotation, and they did not do a stroking pattern. They just went and started doing a step sequence, and they were so fast. It's like, what is happening? They're just...
It's so funny because I was actually just gonna mention them.
Yeah, it was... I just love them so much, like a cartwheel in a midline. Like, they just do cool stuff, and... I think probably like they're young, and it seems to me like the choreography and the holds are not quite as intricate as some of the higher level teams. And so obviously that does make skating super fast a little bit easier to accomplish. But I just loved the freshness and newness. I'm just such a huge fan. Like I didn't really know them before, just to watch them online, and hadn't seen them live. And I just was blown away from the first moment I saw them.
Yeah, same. Like their program was, I think, because they were they were in the second group in the free dance, like the second to last. So they were mixed with all of these other couples that had such strong themes, and they didn't, which showed. But I think it's just a matter of they're young and not as experienced, and that's just what happened, but their quality of skating, like same, I was quite impressed. I was like, wait, who are, like, where are they coming from? Who are they? There's, and her arms. Come on. No, she has such beautiful arms. I was also very impressed and like very excited to see, I think, see them find their style and find their identity. And yeah, they'll be incredible for sure.
Yeah, they're obviously at a disadvantage this year because they did have a program and then they had to change it because the composer of the music said, "You can't use my music unless you give me a huge sum of money."
Yeah, he said, "I don't want it on YouTube."
I don't want it on YouTube. I don't want it on anything. And every stream that they were on just got taken down. And so they just like, okay, well, I guess we'll go to Raid in Your Black Eyes because everybody uses that and doesn't have a problem. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do for the Olympic season. Especially now.
I was impressed by how much the rhythm dance improved. Because I was not a huge fan of the Beatles program when it started out. I always like the costumes. I appreciate their like psychedelic skirt patterns, but I was impressed by how much they really got into the acting side of it, and like both of them had such like good facial expression throughout it. I feel like, especially seeing that live, I was really noticing it with them, and I was really sorry. I feel like this is just going to be a repeated thing, which is frustrating, that I feel like the Toshlers are continuing to be dropped, and this is the same. I mean, when they got off and Philip was like, "I'm so glad we never have to skate that rhythm dance ever again," and I was like, yeah, I understand, because that's been a really rough program this year. And then both at Europeans and then here, they got off after the free dance thinking that, oh great, that went much better, that felt great, and then the scores were still not very good. So yeah, like, I don't know exactly, like, I'm curious what you think that they should do to try to turn it around, because part of me wants them to like I don't want them to change too much, because I like that they're different from other teams, but clearly the judges are not rewarding what they're doing right now. So I don't know what they will do next year, but I really I appreciate them so much. I really liked their free dance this year, and I've enjoyed it, especially live.
Curve lift is so cool too. Like, they do lots of cool stuff. They just were not getting great of execution, like from where I was sitting on the sheet. Like, the levels are pretty okay. I like in the 1 foot in the free, they do that cool like blade grab and super deep inside edge. And you're right, they are unique and different. I don't know. Does the rhythm dance trouble just make it too hard to climb out of? I don't know. Gabby?
Yeah, I like them a lot, and I've seen them do, I think that's the thing, and I've seen them do more interesting things. I've seen them do more memorable programs that they had this year, and I think, I don't really know why they're judged the way they are. I don't talk to the judges, but I think for me it's kind of a similar issue. It's like, not issue, but I feel like they could be more different. I feel like I think that was my perspective when I saw them. I was like, yeah, they're very good, but who are they? And especially because maybe I've seen programs that I was like, oh wow, like they are so different and they're so unique. Then this year maybe I wasn't getting that feeling as much, and I guess it just didn't help. I think that was my feeling, actually, which is funny that you say that they were doing very different things, because for me I was like, oh, I feel like they've toned back, toned down.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they have backed away. They were, I mean, I think even a couple of years ago when they had the climate change program, and it had to become
they had to keep changing it and
make it not political and all of this stuff. And I was kind of like, well, I get it, but also it's the strongest, that really was making them stand out. And I mean, and there's lots of things that are less obvious than that as well, but I feel like they've gotten a lot of criticism for some things about like being brother sister and body types and like things that are not in their control. And I kind of like I guess what I hope for them is to have the confidence to be themselves and really own it. And I hope that could I hope, like, for the sake of the sport, that would be rewarded. Like all technical stuff to the side.
Yeah, you're right, Anna, and it's hard to see the criticisms on things that they can't control, and also things that people just really have no business talking about. Makes me so angry. But yeah, I don't know. They also mentioned in interviews that they were feeling like they had like some blocks in competition, and they were feeling really, I don't want to misquote them, so I think it was the AnythingGOEs post that I read where Philip said that he felt finally in the rhythm dance, like maybe the block released or the free dance, I can't remember. And I think that sometimes can, at least in my experience, have an effect on the way that you're performing and competing. Like, I think we can see the difference in a team or an athlete that skates free versus someone that tries to just like check boxes, and the impact that has changes for a viewer and certainly for a judging panel. My 2 cents.
I think you're right. Like, for sure, confidence in your programs just plays so much into like how you're performing it. Like, do you like just like, do you want to practice it every day, or every day are you like, yeah, it's not the best program? Like, that plays so much into it, and especially if they get a lot of criticism, it can like kill that. I've seen that happen into like a lot of couples some days, and I have no idea if that's what's happening. But or like at the beginning of the season, a couple has like a great concept, something very different, something that stands out and stuff, and then maybe judges or the federation or whomever is like, I don't know, maybe it's going too far, maybe you should tone it down, maybe you should, and then the program loses its essence, because the thing that made it stand out is now like toned down, and then the program just never really gets its magic, and you can really tell the people performing it that just don't believe in the program anymore. So I have no idea if that's what's happening, but that for sure can really play into it. And I think whatever you do, you really have to just go full out.
Olivia said something like that about one of the lessons from this season was just that material really matters, because they yes, they improved between last season and this season, but a big part of why they could go improve so much was just the judges didn't really like their free dance last season. They really liked it this season. And it's like, but I guess if you can think about that as like, okay, so picking the right music and picking the right concept and doing that is a thing that you can control. And so having a lot of confidence in that. But yeah, it was interesting.
And I think to Gabby's point, that can even, I feel, happen in reverse. It's funny you mentioned Olivia and Tim, Anna, because I was going to say they, at Nebelhorn, in this same free dance, obviously at the beginning of the year, got 97, I think, points. And so something obviously happened, like, conversations between whoever, who knows. And that switch happened very quickly. And then I think at their first Grand Prix, Skate America, maybe all of a sudden the score in the free dance was vastly different. And it took that one time to seemingly feel confidence in it and to continue that momentum moving forward. And then it just steamrolled to the end of the season. And I think that's such an important lesson that all of these high level coaches and coaching teams know. But this can happen in a positive way and also a negative way. Like sometimes one thing happens or a conversation happens and it then steamrolls in a negative manner. And then sometimes it can even, in my experience, be hard to understand like what changed, what exactly changed. And it can drive you insane if you don't know what it is, because then all of a sudden the momentum's gone, you can't figure out how to get it back, and your confidence is shot, obviously. And skating is so hard.
Obviously they fell on that big final lift in Nebelhorn that they've been working on like all summer, and that could easily have just made them shy away from doing that, and they could have changed it, but they kept with it, and they you know, fine-tuned it and made it so that they never messed it up again. They got new costumes that fit more to the style of the program.
Yeah.
They just managed to like tweak things to make it like stand out in a good way.
Yeah, totally.
Someone asked earlier, do you think that they should keep this program? And I'm curious what you think about that idea of like keep, you know, a program so successful and people are like, oh, you should use it for the Olympics season. Yeah.
Oh no.
It's had its moment.
Yeah.
No,
it's so hard to live up to that moment. They've done it to the fullest.
Yeah.
Nah. I think there are only a very, very, very few reasons why you should keep a program. In my opinion, I think you're a young team, and you're not like at the big championships and stuff, and nobody really knows you yet. Like people don't really know you as much yet, so it doesn't really matter because people won't necessarily remember your free dance, and you're like, it worked, it's good, if we keep working on it, it's gonna get even better. I think that's a good reason to keep a program, but nah.
Like if you're moving up from like junior to senior, and like a lot of people don't bother watching the junior events, so
right?
If you want to like keep a program and then show it off as your debut in senior and like introduce yourself to a new audience with something that you are and working on improving, then it works.
Or you know, or you've had a horrible season with horrible programs that everybody hates. No, just kidding. And then but your last year's free dance was really, really good, and then you're like, all right, we're a month and a half away from world championships. This program is never gonna be good no matter how much we work on it. Yes, go back to the one before.
Yeah, totally.
From the one before, but apart from that, no, change. Just leave it at that. And then
I think, sorry, Gabby, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, then it's really hard to live up to the expectation, but then it's also what's fun, right?
Yeah. And it's important, and Olivia mentioned this in an interview, like the material that they had for this year was important to set themselves up for where they want to be recognized as, or who they want to be recognized as next season. And so they needed that this year, especially after Elvis was not widely well received last season. Like they really needed this great material to set themselves up well, and they're with a great coaching team that can also, they're not one trick ponies, like they can figure something else out that's effective for next season.
I think Elvis almost had the same problem that Hannah and Yi had this year, in that I didn't know who Olivia's character was supposed to be in that Elvis program, and I don't necessarily know who Yi's character is supposed to be in the Cruella program. So it's just kind of, it's getting kind of lost in translation, and like you know who one character is, but you don't really know who the other character is supposed to be.
Interesting.
It was funny that you said that.
I'm not the dog.
Yeah. Ask me who I am. Like, no, I am not the Dalmatian. Like, I'm a henchman, but like it's making Cruella even worse somehow. I don't know. They clearly had tried to come up with a story for it, but it was not obvious to people watching. It's that problem of it's like one really iconic character, and then what is the other person?
Yeah.
I think so. But I think you can always come up. I think it's when it's unclear for the person skating. And also, like, I think it also comes from what is the reason we're portraying this story? You know, like, is it just because I think they look cool, or I think, you know, like, or the costume is going to be cool, and then it doesn't go that much deeper, and then it's harder? Or is there, you know, like an inherent, because they, you know, Olivia's, I mean, I don't really remember this program, and I, you know, not enough to form like that much of an opinion on it. But Olivia could have been so many different stories. It could, you know, it could have been, she could have been his wife, or she could have been a groupie, or she could have been like his reflection on his own tormented relationship with himself, you know. That all would have been like very
I think that the problem was that she was maybe trying to be all three of those at different parts of the program.
It was,
but
yeah, and it
yeah.
just it didn't come across that well.
Yeah, because even I think, if I'm not mistaken, I also think that even for Christina and Anthony, I think he's two different characters from the beginning of the program and the end.
Cool.
But because it's very clear, and because they really dug deep into like what is the story of Carmen, and it's not just passion and love and murder. It's deeper than that, you know. It's like love and jealousy and it's like things that you can relate to in your own life. And I think that maybe is what it's lacking in the Cruella program. It's like what is the deeper meaning of that story?
Yeah.
You know, what is it? I don't know enough about the Cruella story to have an idea. But you know, but I think it's what's missing a little bit. It's like what is the depth? How do you as people relate to the story of Cruella?
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why we're like, who is he?
Yeah.
You know?
It's an interest. Yes. For me, totally opposite end take on this one. I just don't care. I don't, in this particular program, I just think she's such a star. And I wonder if, and that's such like low level explanation. Like I would never say that on a broadcast, obviously, for a commentary position, but I just feel like she is embodying whatever kind of Cruella character. And I wonder if in order for her to do that fully, he needs to be like this strong, stable support that allows her to be that. And I think as they progress and move forward in their career, they'll continue to develop both parts. But I just, and this was not to say that any of you are incorrect, obviously, by the way. It was just like, for me watching it, I just thought, oh my God, she has such star quality in everything that she does, and is so expressive in a way that I think is sometimes hard to teach. Maybe that also draws my attention away from Ye a little bit, which obviously is not what you'd like to see both partners. But because of that, I just was like, I don't know, and it doesn't matter to me because it is so like they've captured my attention throughout the entirety of it, that I didn't need that extra piece. But maybe that's, I don't know.
But to be fair, I think I was just to be fair, it didn't bug me at all when I was watching. I enjoyed the part. It's like now hearing that, I'm like, yeah, it's true. That it's now I can maybe see it. It's true that I think though, what I like, and to add to what you're saying, I think they have something that's really cool about them. It's like, I don't feel like they are in a relationship at all. There is zero. And listen, I have no idea what what their relationship is in actual life, but I don't feel like they have a romantic connection at all, nor are they really trying to portray one. And maybe they are, but I don't know. And I feel like there's just like two besties skating together, and I like that. Like, I think it is so refreshing because you can see so many couples trying to bring that to their skating or to their relationship on the ice or whatever. But they are just so far from it.
Yeah.
That I think there is something really beautiful about just seeing two besties skating together. That and I do think that it also helps her shine as well, because there doesn't seem to be a need for both to be at the same level. And I don't want to say level because I don't want to say he's under her, but they don't have, like, there's no, like, the expectation doesn't have to be the same, I guess. And I don't know. I yes, it's true that I do appreciate that about them.
I'm sorry, I feel terrible. I'm not meaning to say everything is, you know what I mean. He's like a big fan, I think.
The question from Diane here: how do the Italians come back from the robot free dance for their Olympic year? They've got to go to something more classical again. Obviously, it's in Italy, so doing something classical and Italian would be obviously expected, but it's right up their alley and will show off the best aspects of their skating as a team. It's obviously, I think it's going to be hard for them to get over the season they've had. Hopefully they can just move past it and think about the Olympics. But I feel like this season has really taken its toll on them with the up and then down and up and then down. It's obviously not where they wanted to end the year. They obviously wanted to be on the podium, and they feel like the judges are not on their side. So yeah, they have to just kind of reframe their mind and focus on themselves and just do what makes them happy.
Yeah. I think I do appreciate that they tried to go a different route and try to do something different. It didn't work so well. Didn't work as much as they wanted it to work. But I think it also, weirdly, if they do go back to a more classical thing, like whatever, Italian or a movie or just something that they do well, people are gonna love it. But if they hadn't, I'm just trying to see the silver lining.
Right.
If they hadn't done something so different and, as this robot program, people would be like, all right, they're just doing this again. And, like that's what they do. Can they do something else? But now people are just like, they became a sort of like underdog that people are like, that it was just so disappointing for them that we feel disappointed for them too. That we're like, almost like behind them. And I feel like if they come back with like a great classical program that it can do very well, I think it will be successful because of that.
Yeah.
Good take. It's a great take.
I think I like that, and I think that's the that's the narrative for for them to have and to think about. But I do think that they've done so many things, and they have so many things that they can draw on, and they also know where their strengths are. But like I was all for the idea of something out there. I think the robot program, I never really understood why, other than the novelty of it. They were doing it, and I think that if I had felt like they were trying to communicate something with it, I might have liked it a little bit more, because it had a lot of really if you actually like watching it, it had a lot of really interesting elements in it. They were doing some cool things, but it never. I never felt like there was a reason for it. Not that programs always need a reason, but if you're going to do something that's kind of out there, maybe that's my bias, is that I want there to be more to it from that sort of substance. But I really liked the program that they had 2 years ago that was pushing them a little bit outside of their comfort zone, and that it was kind of a little bit sinister.
The dark one.
I would like if I would like if they go for Italian warhorse, new cinema paradiso, something very, that they don't only go for sort of the sentimentality side of it, but that they also try to bring a little bit of the darkness and the drama into it too, because I don't want them to I don't want them to go so safe that it becomes cliche. And so but I think they can do it. I'm kind of excited to see what they come up with.
I hope so. I was really sad for them. Obviously can go be happy for one and sad for the other. And that was tough. I was surprised that they kept the free dance all the way through to Worlds. I was thinking at times in the beginning of the season that they might switch and go back to maybe last year's free or something different. But maybe Gabby's point is home run. Like maybe we've seen them do this, and then next year they do something a little bit more in their wheelhouse, and everybody's like, oh my God, there they are.
Because I think like not nobody's, but I don't, because they've always stayed in that kind of more expected classical route. Nobody was ever like, oh, like what are they gonna do? I wonder, what the Italians are gonna do. Like nobody was like, okay. Just I didn't feel like a like really just But now I feel like everybody's just going to be talking about what they do next year, which works for them, like works in their favor, weirdly. Even though they had a disappointing season, now everybody wants them to do what they do best, which probably wouldn't have happened.
Good point.
Yeah, I wonder what they'll do for the 90s. I was
gonna
really
say,
thinking
they kind of usually do something quite like campy, and I'd like them to kind of go maybe like more, not necessarily grunge, but maybe more the rockier style. Just kind of, because I don't want to see them do like Spice Girls or something. I feel like we're gonna have a million Spice Girl programs next year. But yeah, I'd like them to kind of go slightly more grungy. Sorry, I have a cat now.
They could go in the full like Daft Punk rave direction and have matching costumes again and use the robot for that. I do kind of feel like that they and Evan and Maddie should play up the like we were alive for the 90s and compared to some of the other teams, but we'll see what people come up with. It was really interesting actually hearing the I got to listen to some of Caitlin Weaver's description of like what all of the different programs of the 90s could be in like different music styles, and it was cool to see sort of because she was making an effort to try to say like that this is not just about like, well, what was popular like in the US and Europe in the 90s, but what was like pop music and dance music like in different places, and talking about like, wouldn't it be cool to see like some 90s K-pop program? Wouldn't it be cool to see like, so it was interesting hearing like, okay, there's a lot of different things that this could be. I'm sure that we'll still see most people kind of funnel into a few directions, but
I mean, I think that's the thing with rhythm dance. Like, yes, of course, there are so many things you can do, but you want people to understand. You know, it's still a program. It's still like that. People expect to be entertained. People expect to be, you know, like you don't have a lot of time to set like a theme and a story, and you know, it's just bang, 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 bang. So there's kind of that, and you know that you're gonna compete against a lot of people that are just doing like hits and stuff that people are gonna sing and clap. So it's always that balance. Yes, it could be a lot of things. However, I think most teams are gonna rightfully or whatever choose something that's, you know, that people know already. I would love to see some things that I haven't seen already, but I'm like, I think, you know, they will be afraid that it won't engage, that people won't be engaged as much, and I think they're right to think that. So we'll see. But actually, I would love to see a rhythm dance that is not entertaining. Like, no, but like that, entertaining, but not like music. All right, you know, like I would love to see something that is, you know, where I don't know, there's maybe more on the slow side, or where there's a story, or I don't know, it's just something that is not like we just chose like really like music that we want to dance to in the club and then just danced on it. I think, you know, it's fun. I would love to see something different, but we'll see if that.
It seemed like the way they were talking about it, the distinction was like, what the only, like they're like, the only rule that we care about is that we don't want this to be like a free dance. And I was thinking, okay, so how are you defining like a free dance? But I was thinking about it, and it was basically like a free dance is mostly like about emotions or storytelling. And so they're kind of like, we want the rhythm dance to not be about emotions or storytelling. We want it to just be about dancing. And so I was like, oh, that's like, this is my paraphrasing. Like, please do not take this as a direct quote from the Ice Dance Technical Committee. But that was I was in trying to like understand by what they're saying, what they didn't want it to be, like, what do they want it to be? And I think that actually explains part of why I often don't like the rhythm dances as much, is like, the concept is just, we're dancing and isn't this music fun? And that's great, but if you watch a whole like 20 of those in a row,
or 36,
the same.
So they don't want something like the Cranberries, I guess.
Oh, too bad. I love the Cranberries.
Too bad. Do it. I agree with Johnny as well. I'd like them to do like Garbage or Massive Attack. That would be very fun.
Yeah. I mean, they were like grunge is good. There was like, yes, you know, but yeah, it's interesting just seeing like where there are good reasons to want the different things that they're saying that they want, but then sometimes you put those different things up against each other and they feel somewhat contradictory in terms of like, this is all about expressing individuality and but we also want it to be really entertaining to a mass audience. Like, it's just, yeah, it's hard to have all of those things.
Move on to other.
Oh yes, that's true. We
have an
an
entire
hour in and
on
we've only done dance, but I knew we were going to have a longer dance conversation.
Sorry, my computer died, but I'm back.
No worries.
I'm so sorry, but I was going to say, sorry, before we move on, I don't know, maybe you have moved on. It's actually funny because I was basically what I said before you said that. I was basically like, I'd like rhythm dance to be like some rhythm dances. I'm not saying all rhythm dances, but some to be more like free dances. Because I think that would be really creative. That would really stand out. But that's just my opinion. I think I would really like to see that. But also because I think it would allow better maybe to skate on music that is not American music.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I just formed this opinion right now. I have no idea, but I might change my mind tomorrow. But I feel like rhythm dance is so American centered because we want like there's this expectation, and you know that you're gonna score better if it's songs that everybody knows.
Yeah.
What songs everybody know? American songs. And so I feel like it kind of puts like a weird disadvantage on teams that aren't American because as you know, as a former skater, it's hard for me to portray songs like just American dances because they're just not part of my culture. They're like not what I grew up doing or dancing. Like they're just not part of who I am. And so I feel like there's this kind of like weird we just expect teams from the Netherlands to dance on like hip hop music, like, and I'm not saying like Americans necessarily in their culture, but it's more in the culture. And I feel like the rhythm dance the last couple years was like that. And you know that if you pick some like Japanese funk music, people are just gonna be like, what is this? Like they sing along to that. And so I feel like it creates a bit of a maybe a bit of a I don't know the word, but so I think I feel like I'm the only one thinking about that. But I think maybe I'm thinking too far. But I do feel it's part of I think it's like something that should be thought about at least.
Well,
anyway.
And that's the thing where like I guess I felt like it was interesting to hear Caitlin basically going out of her way to be like, music outside of the US does exist and we would love to see it. And like also knowing like we being the technical committee is not necessarily the same as the judges, is not like put all of the caveats on that. But I did think it was interesting that like she was going to the effort to show that all of these other things do exist. But like when I think back about like what were the 80s programs, like Yevgeny and Jeffries is one of the only ones that I remember, and it's because it introduced me to music that I hadn't heard before, and I thought that was really cool. So like
it's really cool, but it's just so much more risky. It's so risky, so
especially with Worlds in Boston. I think that was prevalent when people made music choices with who the audience is going to be, because the audience being on your side is helpful. Like the ovation that you get obviously is helpful for how your program is perceived. I wonder if that will change this year with Worlds in Prague, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. The Kanai Joe from
that was really well.
Oh my God.
Like that was the one time I was like,
so
okay, crowd tendering, go for it. but it was kind of, it's always funny. I mean, and I'm not from Boston, but I'm from close by. And so I found it kind of funny that like Monet Chiba knew that Donna Summers was from Boston. And I'm like, I didn't know that Donna Summers was from Boston.
Neither did I, unfortunately.
You could try too hard. I mean, and I like that program, but like, it's just kind of funny sometimes. Like, you end up learning about connections that actually the people from the place might not have even known about either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fun.
Okay, so on to women.
Yeah, so we had Alyssa Liu as our winner here, Kari Sakamoto as the silver, and Monet Chiba as the bronze. I love that we were so sure going into this that like we basically, I mean, we said that a lot of people could be on the podium, but we were like, it's going to be Kari, Chan, or Amber. And then after the short program, it was none of them on the podium. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really expected Alyssa winning. No. If anyone thought an American woman was going to win, they thought it was going to be Amber. But I'm not mad about it because Alyssa just like she's so there's like so much freedom in her when she's out on the ice. She just like she doesn't seem to have any like expectations or put too much pressure on herself. She's just going out there having a great time, having fun, delivering her programs, and everyone's just like eating it up. They're just like, okay, you're great, you've won.
Yeah, and one of my coaches is down there with Maddie Skizas, and so I'm always interested in how backstage vibes are different with different disciplines. Like I think the pair discipline is vastly different than how the women's singles discipline is in the change room and in the backstage area. And I guess Alyssa is just like, oh, I like your bag, like just very relaxed. And I think she was like that to a degree before she retired when like around the Beijing Olympics time, but it's just very evident to me when I watch her skate that she skates for herself, and she came back on her own terms and has taken ownership over what she does and how she does it and when she does it. And there's something to be said about the importance of that for me and how it translates into how you perform. And of course, credit to the team around her who obviously have helped her to become this authentic version of herself that she can be proud of. But her short program for me, and I don't want to talk about jumps, I mean, obviously we have to, but the choreography for me is some of the most magical, maybe the most magical 2 minutes and 50 seconds that I've seen on the ice in a really long time. And I thought it was deserved, truly. I loved it so much.
I love both of the programs, and it's funny because I was a little skeptical about the free to begin with, but I think she really grew into it in such a nice way, and it like let you be having, like she's having fun, and it let us be having fun with her and just feel that like, yeah, just all of that joy that came with it. It's like not the most sophisticated like dancing, but that's okay. She's having fun. Like it's like I feel like that was the vibe that it was giving me, and it was really refreshing. And also, I was just gonna say overall about this competition, I had a lot more fun as the days went on, because I feel like for the shorts, every single person was so nervous. Like everyone was more tense and more upset and more just like than any time that I'd ever, seen skaters before. And it's just, I feel like the Olympic spots were just really, really weighing on people. Alyssa was the only person that I talked to who genuinely did not seem stressed. And I felt like that really just showed and translated into her performance. And like, I'm sure there was some level of anxiety that she was having, but just so different than the pressure that it seemed like everyone else was feeling from themselves or their federation or anything. And that was just like, I'm sure it will not feel quite the same next year because still have more expectations externally, but I felt like she was in a really good place and that her coaches were like really giving her a good, like she said, and then Massimo said later that like she's in charge. Like they'll give her suggestions about like what they think she should do, but really it's like she's hired them and she's the boss, and you could kind of see that, and it had it was a really nice vibe.
Yeah. And I think there's power in that as well, and being like, look, I'm coming back, but I just want to skate because I like skating, and I really like this song, so I want to skate to this song. And I think that's really cool, but also really hard to do. It's hard, I think, to fend off external expectations, and she seems to do a really great job of it. Obviously, none of us can know internally how she's feeling, but it seems as though she does a superb job to just go out and do what she likes to do, and then the repercussions will be what they will be, and she'll deal with that later, which is uniquely her, I think.
And I feel like this result is almost the best possible outcome for Kaori, in that I don't think she wanted the pressure of being 4-time world champion going into the Olympic season. Like,
I'm describing my
she feels, I think she feels better knowing she did a free skate that was essentially perfect, and yeah, she didn't win, but that doesn't really matter because she still managed to come back from a deficit in the short program, and she still has all of that experience, and there's just a little bit less pressure on her now going into the Olympics than there would have been.
I did think that she maybe should have won the free. I know that the people had opinions on the free early in the season. I felt like it grew so well, and it just really doesn't stop from beginning to end. It's expertly choreographed. The jumps are part of the choreography, which is really hard to do, especially when, you know, the technical elements are worth so much and are so extremely difficult. But I really like that. I don't know, like maybe Gabby can speak to like what it's like to come back after as a world champion versus world silver. Like, will she feel less pressure next year? I don't know. Seems like no.
I don't know. I think it's hard. We're all different. We all have different teams. We all came to be, you know, like everybody came to be world champion or whatever in very different ways, with very different histories. So I can't really speak like what I think her experiences. I think though, there is more pressure for sure, and I think there's also a sense of like, well, if I don't win, I'm a loser because I did last year, so I should win. Like, there's a lot of that I can go on, which might not be super healthy. However, it can also
probably not.
No, it doesn't sound like something you've read in a psych book, but what you should tell your students: you're a piece of shit. No, don't do that. No, but it can also be a like a strength. I think for me it was always fun to actually be the target for everybody. You know, there's actually something that is quite powerful about having everybody's eyes turned towards you and being kind of just the person to beat for everybody, and having that like crown, like just having that crown to not lose instead of not having it. Like, I don't think it would have been a good underdog. I don't have that like, I'm gonna prove everybody what I'm capable of. I'm like more like, oh my god, I have to not lose what I already have. So I think it's everybody's different. I don't think there is a good or a bad thing. I think she can absolutely use that to help her if she wants to. I think it's actually a cool thing to have, to be that much of a favorite. But
and to be that dominant for so long. Sorry, Anna, go ahead.
I just
so cool.
I feel like one of my favorite things of this world and of last year's worlds was watching Kaori in the free skate. And it was just, there's something about the way she skates that takes the maximum advantage of the crowd and the energy, and that she skates so big that it just like, I'm like, yes, I want to be seeing this in a big arena. I want to be watching it from the balconies, because I'm like, in some ways I can kind of just appreciate how amazing her skating is from that perspective in a really beautiful way. And I felt like she's really grew into this. I mean, same, like, I feel like she really grew into this program, and the jumps that like almost like hit the boards because she's so, because she had so much distance on them. It was just very exciting.
About Carrie or Elisa?
Carrie.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. My whole rant was about what I thought about Elisa. Anyway.
I mean, it felt applicable to me.
It did. I think it fully applies to both.
True.
I also feel like it's so important to mention that what she did in the short to pop a double jump and still do a triple toe on the end of it is so hard. It is so hard to have that much momentum in your upper body and to gain control of it and get through on a successful triple toe I know she's done this with a single before. I think maybe the first time she won Worlds. So I just like have so much respect for how she didn't let anything go. And then the free was truly just incredible for me.
Yeah.
And if we saw in the short that the Americans were first, fourth, and fifth, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense to me. But I would have expected a different configuration of that. So I did feel really sad for Amber to be such an overwhelming favorite and to have that much pressure at home. And her coach told me that they weren't talking about that, and that wasn't something that was in kind of the conversations of the prep for the event, but it has to be, you've got to know, right? Yeah. You have to know that is your reality. But when we looked at the scores of like everybody's season's best score, Amber was not at the top, which I think a lot of people didn't know. Like Cowrie still had the best total score of the season. Of course, you all knew that. But like
from NHK trophy.
Yeah, but from a general viewer perspective, it felt like Amber was so unbeatable, and statistics told us otherwise. It was just they had never gone head to head yet or they had, but not when Cowrie was there, but whatever. It was still going to be so challenging, but obviously Amber had to do her best short, which she did so many times in practice in Boston. So bummer.
Yeah. I think I was disappointed for Amber, and I also felt like this was, it was not a disaster. She made mistakes, but she was able to really still fight through those programs, still place really well, still and so I do hope that looking at this season as a whole, that she can take the really incredible achievements that she had in the first half of the season and what she's been able to do, and just sort of feel like I think she's still right up there in that mix. And it's just really exciting to me to feel like we're looking at that top six is incredible. They were all we had multiple world medalists, Grand Prix final champion. It was all the people coming into that were all such strong contenders. I also want to mention that I was really impressed with Isabeau coming back from injury and doing so well here. And then even after making that first mistake in the free skate, being able to continue and do so well. And then Wakaba was incredible. And I felt like getting to watch Cowrie Wakaba back to back was wow. And I was really blown away, and just the energy that she brings to her final step sequence. So good. I don't have anything insightful to say. I'm just it was really good.
I really hope Wagaba being back at Worlds again pushes her PCS back up, because it's just nonsensical that she's being scored like this. She's one of the most beautiful skaters in the world, and she doesn't get scored like it, and it's extremely infuriating.
Yeah, but that's happened in the past. The Beijing short should have been way higher than it was for me. But I also have as a sentimental fave.
Her landing a triple axel and somebody falling on a triple axel being ahead of her on the scoreboard is absolutely insane.
That's tough. But Yeah, I love her. I was really happy to see that she seemed really proud of herself, and obviously the score wasn't what she totally was hoping it would be, especially in the free, but hopefully that creates some momentum. The Japanese men and women's fields are so incredibly, there's just so much depth that I hope this momentum can help her to continue on this trajectory to allow her to be at another Olympic Games, because I just love her and I want to watch her do step sequences all day, every day. This is so good.
Agreed.
I'm so sorry. I have to go.
Yep.
Dinner and
Of course.
but
Yes.
Great
Thank
to
you
have
so
you.
much for doing this with us.
yeah, it was so fun. Thank you.
Of course.
Let's do it again soon.
Amazing. We'd love to have you back.
I learned so much from you every time you talk about ice dance, Gabby.
Thank
You're
you.
so
No, I
insightful.
learned so much from you guys. Anytime you talk about anything else than ice dance, I barely know anything. But bye. Thank you.
Enjoy dinner.
Of course.
Yeah.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Okay. Yes, there was some comments about Nina Pinzerone. I love her, and I think she has one of the best dresses in the entire
The red one?
figures. The red one, one of the literally the best dress of the season. It's
so
so
good.
perfect.
It's so
perfect. And I'm so proud of her because I feel like there was more pressure on her than almost anybody else in the women's event. Just like you have to finish in the top 10, otherwise Luna's not going to get a shot at the Olympics.
And actually, even conversely, like she had to
Yes.
finish in the top 10, or else she might not go
She
to
might
the
not.
Olympics.
Exactly.
Like that's
Yeah.
so much worse. You know,
Yeah.
like it just sucks. So look, earning Olympic spots is so difficult. It's so difficult to try to earn your country an Olympic spot, but earning an Olympic spot that you might not get to use is savage. And look, like I've been there. I was at Olympic earning worlds in 2013 and in 2021, but in 2017 I wasn't. So I'm not going to sit here on like a high horse and be, whatever. But I did reap the benefits of like Dylan Moskovich and Lubov Ilisheshkina being so amazing at 2017 Worlds, and then we got the spot for 2018 Olympics, and obviously that sucks. But from a perspective of Nina Pinzerone, she knows that Luna is not healthy enough to be there, but also at her best is very likely in a higher position than Nina. Possibly. We don't know how Luna's going to come back. So I felt like her out of all maybe had the most pressure to like get herself to ensure that she herself had one. And
especially when like Jade Hovin was so ridiculously close to getting the minimums and would have been here if like the pressure would not have all been on you. Like there was a good chance that she could have made the free skate. It's just an insane amount of pressure, and she handled it incredibly well.
Yeah, agreed. Especially the free was amazing, and I really like that free. It's different, and I like how the opening really plays to the lyrics, and respect.
I think everyone's going to remember a chair, a table, like
totally. And she is a table in that moment. I believe she's a table. So yeah, that's cool.
And Nina Petrikina did a great job as well.
Yes.
I remember last time for the Olympics, I don't know if their rules are still the same, but I remember last time whoever earns the spot at like pre-Olympic World gets to keep it as long as you finish top 2 at nationals. Yeah, because Eva Lotta-Kipus earned it last time, managed to get second at nationals, and even though Nina Petrikina had the better season, Eva Lotta-Kipus got the Olympics.
Okay.
So it's going to be interesting to see who they send for a potential second spot. Obviously, Eva Lotta's had some issues with injury since then, but she did win Coupe de Printemps, so she's doing some things. There's also like Natalie Langebauer. There's a lot of options they could send out there. But I think it's pretty much guaranteed at this point that Nina Petrikina is going to go to the Olympics. And it's interesting to me that she's going to keep her June free skate, because obviously what we said about, like, kind of the reverse of what we said about Olivia and Tim, in that they've kind of done the most they can with it, and they shouldn't keep
Yeah.
it. But it's interesting that Nina's going to keep it and just like maybe tweak some stuff.
Yeah, I do find it's more common in singles and pairs. Like when people tell me they're going to keep a really great free skate, it doesn't make me go, what are you doing? Where it sometimes is weird for me, and I know we've spoken about this in the past as it pertained to Conti Machi, is when you've had like a finish on the world podium or European podium in Nina's case, and then this same costume and everything goes on the podium the following year. And that maybe is so dumb. Like maybe that's a me thing. But yeah, it doesn't alarm me that much that she keeps the program. I guess when it's a free program, that's where my brain goes. That I don't know. Maybe that's stupid.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just because I personally like to get a new dress. But I also understand that like often funding is not in a surplus, and sometimes we have to make choices. And if keeping a program and a costume is a choice you make to get the perfect training and people on your team, then yeah, of course that's the choice that you should make.
I still remember, like, I think a couple of seasons ago, I think she kept one program to the next season, and she's a skater I think really thrives in like the pattern and the timing of a program. So I think knowing how well that free program has succeeded for her this year, I think like it's beneficial for her in terms of the consistency of her jumps and everything to kind of keep things similar.
And I feel like she could still push it more. Like I feel like this was sort of a comeback season for her, and that while she skated really, really well, I don't feel like there were necessary, like this program as a program doesn't feel iconic to me in the same way that I feel. So I'm like, I think she could keep moving into it.
Yeah.
Laura Naki-Gutman did say that she's getting a new short program because
I'm sad about that.
So I know, but she said that she loved it so much that she wanted to put it in a box and just like have these memories from this season as this.
She can bring it out for girl as an exhibition.
The next thing, yeah. Well,
true.
Exactly, and we do still get to see one more time at World Team Trophy.
Team Trophy, yeah.
I was really just looking down the list here. I did want to say Maddie Schizas, I think, did really well here. I was happy for her. I mean, I think she lost out on the top 10, but this was such a tough competition, and she did really well to put herself into that top group after the short.
She did amazing. Like that was such a tall ask for Maddie, and she felt terribly. Like she's been trying to break this top 10 since the 2022 Olympics, or since I guess the year before, the 2021 World Championships, and coming so close here. And she did mention in interview that this score would have had her in the top 10 in any other year, and that really speaks to her change in the way she trains and her approach to training, and also attention to what makes the most sense for her. We know she had a program change in the middle of the season and recognizes that it's not because the original program wasn't good. She just felt like she had wanted to skate to Butterfly Lovers for a long time. They started playing with it. It felt more organic for her. She's going to keep it for next season, and continues to work with a Chinese dance expert to work on the authenticity of these movements. And I know she really wanted to get that second spot for Canada, but I mean, you can't have regret. She did everything apart from one triple Lutz triple toe combination. She really did everything she could, and earning that opportunity for 2 spots is not to say that it's guaranteed, right? Canada still would have had to send someone to China in the fall to earn that position, and so I really hope for Maddie's competition. Sorry.
It's a very hard fought competition in Beijing. Like there's going to be a lot of really hard.
I think in all disciplines, the easiest, like save for a few special examples, like the Lithuanian dance team, for example. But I think in the majority of the cases, the best time to qualify for Olympics was here at Worlds. It's going to be so challenging, I think, to do it in China. So I hope Maddie can just take that as a positive for how she's grown her own skating and use that momentum to take her into next season.
It's just so sad to see her think, have I got it? And they're like, no. It's like, oh.
Oh, wasn't that so sad?
It was so heartbreaking.
I thought it was enough for a second. Oh, that made me feel really sad.
It was so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I also wanted to just, in terms of qualifying spots here, I was really happy for Olga Mikutina, looking like Katya Kurakova. Like, there are a lot of these skaters who, they may not have had the best performance in the world, but they did what they needed to do. And it just makes me, I mean, I feel like this was the part that just on an emotional human level was making this competition. Like, I was realized that I was actually so emotionally drained actually after the first day of competition with the pairs and women's short programs, and especially talking to so many pairs that were like, I was so ready, and it didn't happen. And I was like, I have to put up a little bit of an emotional barrier here, because I couldn't be that emotionally invested in every
totally
every
you're
team
trying to do a job. I'm starting to cry right now. That's the difficulty with being a skating fan and also working in the sport when you're such an empath. And also I can understand what it feels like in a lot of cases, and it just sucks so much when people show up ready to do it and it doesn't happen. And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason for that. Sometimes it just doesn't happen, and you were mentally prepared and physically prepared, and all the conditions were right, and the ice is slippery, and it sucks so much.
I felt bad for Livia Kaiser, even though she managed to make the free skate, the fact that she'd had such a bad injury the weekend before she left for Europeans, and then was off the ice for weeks, couldn't put weight on her leg. She obviously wasn't in optimal condition to come here, and still luckily managed to secure, with the help of Kimi, 2 spots for Switzerland. So
that was a big relief. And the skater that I was watching earlier in the week that was really struggling was Julia Sauter, and she because she came in sick and just was really she had early practices where it was just so hard. I just was feeling for her. It was she didn't want to be she didn't want to be there on those practice sessions, having to fight for this. And she showed so much grit and did so well with her free program, given that, and that to know that she's gone through so much, she had to crowdfund to get to the world championships, and that now she has that Olympic spot. So those were the stories where I was I enjoy it. Of course, I enjoy her skating, but I'm just on a human level, there are people who I know a little bit of those journeys that I was so happy to see that, being able to do that in this moment. But I just want to give small shout out to Nargis Sulemaniyeva, who
was awesome.
Was so good and missed out by 0.01.
0.01. Yeah.
But I'm excited for her. I think she's got a great future. So I was.
The fact that she's only just come back to skating a year ago after taking several years off. She's done a great job. I remember her as a junior for Germany, and I remember taking notice of her because she was one competition I think she tried doing a quad. It was downgraded. She fell. But I was oh, so you're pushing, you're really pushing yourself here. And then she just kind of fell off the map. And I was I wonder where she went. And then she just comes back.
There she is.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree with Melissa and Ada that Linnea Cedar was a highlight. She looked so joyful every time she stepped on the ice. And I know it was a very kind of, not contentious, but the Finnish way of doing it is that the 2 highest scores you get over the course of the season, whether it be domestic or international, will determine who goes for the world spot. And it was the last competition that she overtook one of the other Finnish women to get the spot to come here. And there could have been such a huge amount of pressure on her that, feeling maybe you didn't fully earn it, that somebody who won nationals or whatever could have been there instead. But she looked so carefree and happy to be there, and it got it translated through to the way she skated, and it got her into the free skate, and it got a spot for Finland.
Yeah, she's endearing. I felt I enjoyed watching her, and felt like she was an easy skater to get behind. In the free, it did look a little bit to me like an exercise in jumping.
Yeah.
But I think probably a lot of emphasis would have been placed on the short because there was such an opportunity and a responsibility to make the free in order to get that spot for Finland. I really like her. I think she has a bright future if she wants it. She's easy to watch, enjoyable to watch, and easy to get behind, I think, for me.
We should probably also mention Anastasia Kubanova. It could not have gone worse.
No.
It was almost like she and Kevin switched places. In what like the worst skate you could possibly have at a competition could be. If she just resets her mind, gets a new program, because I don't think that short did her any favors this season, she should be easily getting a spot in Beijing. But it's just a case of putting out of your mind what happened there and not giving up when you make a first mistake in a program, because I feel like that's kind of happened to her several times this season. Something will happen on the first jump and then she'll lose focus for the rest of the program.
And checks out.
Like, completely.
Out. Yeah.
And like Kaori's the proof that, you can make a mistake, doesn't matter, move on, it's fine. It like you can rework it and get past it.
It's an important lesson, and I wonder, I don't know her, I don't know how she trains, but I do wonder, because we've seen this more than one time, like I wonder if she's one of those ones that makes a mistake and turns the music off and starts again. And it like really is again, I don't know, it's possible that's not true, but it's such a learned skill to understand how to come back from disappointment, especially when you are not maybe expecting it. I used to practice a lot better than I competed, especially in my later years. And sometimes I felt like I don't get an opportunity to practice making a mistake on this, because I very rarely make a mistake on this. But you have to be so committed to, like, nobody skates perfect all the time. You have to be so committed to, when things feel like total garbage, you must keep going and persevere to the end, because it can happen in competition and it can make the difference between making a free program and getting a spot for the Olympics or not. And that's
it's like
unfortunately
Adam had a huge mistake at the short program.
Right.
Moved on, carried on. Still, like, even though he was like 9th, it didn't matter. He made the free skate, so it doesn't matter. He has the ability to move back up.
Right.
You just have to be able to just get past one mistake and just move on and carry your program on as if nothing happened.
Yeah. Anyway.
Lauren said, sorry, what is happening in Beijing? Okay, so in September there is a competition, which is the Olympic qualifier, which usually used to take place in Nepal, but this year is happening in Beijing because they kind of wanted to separate it from the Challenger Series and make it like its own Olympic event. And there are several spots left up for grabs for the Olympics for singles, pairs, ice dance. And as long as you finish in the top 5, 3, 4, depending on the discipline, you will earn a quota for the Olympics for your country. Not necessarily for the skater themselves, unless you are from Russia or Belarus, because it has to be a specific skater being sent from those countries to the Olympic qualifier, and only those skaters can earn the spots for Russia and Belarus. But every other country, you are earning it for the country, not the skater.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's essentially the second and last opportunity that countries can qualify for Olympics. Yeah. But if there's no more women, can we do pairs? Because I have to leave around 2.
I know. I was like, oh no, there's no worry, Kirsten. We're gonna be
pairs was next anyway. It's fine.
We always do this, but I really enjoyed, and it was fun to have Gabby here and tell us so much about it too.
Yes, pairs was next anyway.
Great.
Do you want to do this one, Anna?
Sure. So we've got Riku Mura and Ryuichi Kihara winning, Minerva Fabian Haza and Nikita Volodin for silver, and Sara Conti, Nicolo Macchi for bronze. This was a really great pairs competition. I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Some surprises in the short program, and I guess some surprises in the free program as well. But for me, the short of the night was Riku and Ryuichi. It was amazing, but followed closely, like a very close second best short for me was Conti Macchi. Yes. I thought it was amazing, and I wish that I could like come back and land a throw and then clap for myself.
Yeah, she would. It was amazing.
So easy to get. I just find them so passionate, and people who are this passionate about their craft and what they're doing are just so easy to get behind. Like no notes. So good.
That kind of passion is like what I wanted at the beginning of the season when I was being critical of the program. I'm like, I need to feel that calm and energy from it, and they completely delivered it at Worlds.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Obviously the starting position is innovative and interesting, and you feel that like tension between them, and obviously they have a lot of elements to check off and get accomplished, and so sometimes the story doesn't always come through. Sometimes there is no story and it just can be like a cool dynamic program. Riku and Ryuchi, for example, if there's a story, I don't know it, I'm not privy to it, but I still think the choreography is so effective musically, and they skate fast, and the step sequence is a work of art. Like Shaylin Bourne times Riku and Ryuchi, masterpiece.
Yes.
Like a team just made in heaven. I hope that they work with her again next season. And actually I asked them, are you going to keep the short? Are you going to keep either program? The short's so good. And they were like, well, we really like it, but it's so hard. Fair enough. Very good. Worth it.
But that's the thing, they don't make it look hard. And there's a lot of that their step sequences look like they're still having to think about, which is because pair step sequences are really hard. So I'm like not criticizing anyone, but it's just like for the teams that can make their program look effortless, it's so wonderful.
Yes, so good. So good.
Yeah.
And I love what this sets up, just like this. I feel like it was a real doubt, like who was going to win right up until that, like, you know, right up until the final skater. And I love what this sets up for us next year, because we have so many teams that could be on an Olympic podium. We have so many teams that could be winning. Like, this is, and from feeling like Paris was kind of a weak field a few years ago to feel like we have this much strength in it is really exciting.
Yeah, and it's like from a I don't want to say unknowledgeable perspective, but I guess like from a perspective of a former pair skater, a couple years ago when it was feeling weak, I think what I was seeing was lots of teams that were really good in that middle group, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was like the teams at the top are not the Sway and Han that we've had, or Savchenko, Maso, or the teams of the past, but there was so much excellence in that middle group that it felt like there was potential for that. Don't come for me, nobody come for me. I did feel like the Germans should have won. I felt
I've seen
like
people say that, so you're not alone.
I know, but I also don't want it, like, you know that I love Riku and Ryuchi. It used to be my training mates and our great friends, but I did feel like the result was wrong on this night, and it felt a little bit like the Germans brought so much excitement and energy, and it was sucked out a little teeny bit, and not because the Japanese program is not amazing, it just wasn't skated to the best of their ability, and obviously they had a huge lead in the short, but I still thought that the differential in points in the free should have been different. I think that I know the Germans were really upset, or, well, I shouldn't say that. I think maybe it's like a what could have been situation, especially when their final lift went a little bit cuckoo crazy. But I think that could be a benefit for them because people are talking about it. So, and Riku and Ryuchi are not going to go down without a fight either. Obviously, they are an extremely experienced team under pressure now and have such a wealth of things they can pull from in their pocket. They've done so many different styles, and I'm always excited to see what they'll do next. I know Minerva and Nikita are doing their short program right now, so they really took no rest before they went to get that done. So yeah, it's exciting, but it's definitely not only between the two. Like, Deanna and Max are not going to go down without a fight. It was a tough season for them, seemingly from beginning to end. And they will probably have learned a ton this year that they'll be able to take into next season. And I'm interested to see what they do from a choreography perspective. Their programs weren't my favorite this year, but I also understand that when you nail it or like knock it out of the park the year before, it can be so challenging to find material that can live up to that. And if you don't, the difference could be even more than it may have been if their stuff last year wasn't so good. The short in particular, for me last year was special. So that's tough for them, but it doesn't make me feel like they're not in the game for next season. I still think they very much are in that conversation.
Yeah. I think this was a lesson for the Germans in that just to believe in yourself a little bit more, like going into the competition. I know it's not as linear as that, but they just were a little bit nervy in the short program. And if they had just had a little bit more confidence in themselves, they probably would have won overall. Because they wouldn't have been as far behind Riku and Ryuichi in the short if they just had that little bit extra confidence and just just go out there. You know you have what it takes. So just don't worry about that. You know you're here and you're a contender. So
I wonder about that too, Lois, especially watching practice, because there would be something that Minerva would do. She would do like her triple toe, step, double axel, and then come back. And I'm always like watching for exchanges between coaches and skaters and the vibe of like how the session is going as a whole. And I saw her coach just like kind of endearingly in a kind way, like motion to her like it's all up there, or and I was kind of like, I wonder if that felt like a doubt, because for me it's not. Like for me, I look at this team and all season I've just been saying I respect so much how they've been able to come in every time for the most part and just be incredibly consistent. They've just been so reliable and continuing to build their material and build their speed and the grade of execution with which they do all of these things. And from an outsider perspective, you're right. It just looks like, why don't you know that that's so easy for you? Because it's not easy. They just make it look easy. And with that can come expectation as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I also want to give a shout out to Alyssa and Misha, who I think did incredibly well here and really made a lot of new fans for themselves. Like people were really talking about them. People in the arena were really talking about them. And I think because I feel like US pairs is often not that well respected among US skating fans. And I felt like both of the US teams did so well here and really got a lot of support. And I think that that's my hope going into the Olympic season, that people are excited about having the spots, excited about, what that could be. And fingers crossed that Elisa will get, citizenship and that this will be possible. But I feel like they had that free program, especially, was such a moment. Like chills, like the running steps into their choreo, where it was like,
oh my God, so good. Yeah, it's incredible. And I said, and have been saying, like, this team is underrated for me. Like, what do I see that people above me don't see? I felt at Four Continents that they were underscored, and their short program, even the free is my favorite, but the short is so expertly choreographed. Like everything is on a piece of music, and obviously you need the technical elements to really make that score go in the 70s, or the score that the skating skill should allow it to go in. But they have this old school pair feel for me in a way that is really endearing and effective. And the free program is amazing. And under the circumstance of what they have been through and their coaching team has been through, and the Skating Club of Boston, family, friends, of all of this from this tragic event in the plane crash in January, I just was so happy and grateful to be in the building to witness that moment. It felt like a special moment that a lot of people, I'm stumbling over my word. It was special. I'm going to remember it forever.
Yeah, it was really, their program was really the moment for me of that free skate. And I love that. I love that for them. I love that for the audience. I got to experience it, and I'm genuinely really excited about the US having free pairs next year, because it'll be a fun fight to see who will get them also.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to that. I was sad that the Italians were not able to get 3. That was going to be a big lift for them, of course, but like I was definitely feeling for Rebecca and Filippo, who just did not have the competition that they wanted to have. But I was really happy to see some of the teams that really struggled in the short and were the most disappointed were able to come back and skate better free skates and sort of redeem a little bit of it for themselves, because that's what I was saying. Like, it was seeing like back to back the Polish team and the Dutch team and Annika and Robert, and like these teams that have the potential, you know, they can be so good, and they were all like so trained and were, you know, just they were all having that experience of like, I don't know what happened, just and so I felt like seeing the fight back for the free for all of those teams was really satisfying, and I'm really happy that the Polish team, you know, and the Dutch team were able to get the Olympic spots. It was really, really great for them. And then, like, I mean, we haven't talked about this overall, but like with where things are right now, you would see that the British team has now gotten, you know, 3 of the 4 slots. The Polish team got 3 of the 4 slots. It's really cool to see some teams that we haven't like had the depth across the disciplines be able to get those Olympic spots and be potentially team event.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the Polish short is one of my favorite shorts of the season, and they have done it so well in recent events, and they spoke in interviews about how the expectation all of a sudden is making things difficult. Last year, they really didn't have any expectations. They were a brand new team and just trying to do it for themselves. And now all of a sudden they're producing. And with that comes, you know, exterior chatter that can be really distracting if you're not used to it. And when you are used to it, and just in general, and I think so much of it was positive. People were talking in a positive way, but then that makes you feel like you have to live up to that and to perform every time. And I was so happy that they made the free and were able to qualify that spot. Obviously, Yulia qualified for Beijing, did not get to compete because of a COVID test. And she told me that they don't suspect it will be an issue for her to get a passport, to get Polish citizenship. So hopefully this goes a little bit
so much stress over like the next like summer and early next year season, just like worrying who's going to get their citizenship and who isn't. It's terrifying.
Truly. I'm sad for Canada losing that third spot, and especially with a third Canadian team at this event watching this third spot vanish. I remember how stressful it is trying to earn 3 spots or watching those 3 spots try to be earned from home. And Canada does have a strong 3rd and 4th team in the country that, you know, could have duked it out. I mean, all teams will obviously have to duke it out for those 3 spots. Nobody is in automatically, but that's a real shame. And under a normal circumstance, it shouldn't have been normal. Under normal skates for both.
After how well Leo and Trent did it for continent.
Exactly. Yes. So, that should have been and not easy, but not hard for them. So I was really sad for them for that. Georgians, what do y'all think about the Georgians?
I make my feelings pretty clear about the Georgians. I think they are overscored in PCS. I think it's improved, but I'm still not a fan of Luca's lift position. Like, I feel like his legs are very splayed when he's
takes
doing
a big
turns.
Step forward.
It's kind of terrifying because he's almost kind of swinging around, and I'm terrified he's going to drop her. It's better than it used to be, but it's still not my favorite. There have been improvements there. I still think they are scored a little bit higher than they should be.
Yeah, it's from a pair element perspective, amazing. Their pair elements are among the best in this event. Some pair elements that they do probably are the best in this event. But we really just can't. And I did say this on the broadcast, and hopefully it was received under the notion of a place of respect, because truly I respect what they do well so much. But they're really, especially in the free, are 0 transitions. 0 from element 1 to 6, and then we stop in the middle and do something theatrical, and then nothing from like 7 to 11. And that is okay. They're a pretty new team. They're young still, obviously junior eligible, as we know. Again, we're not taking anything away from the para elements, but when it's competing a free program in the last group with these other teams that are doing hard shit between everything, like between, I'm going to say between 7 to 8 elements out of the 11 is a hard transition. There might be 2 or 3 at the end where it's crossovers, but the Georgian team really does crossovers and shift or C-step, C-step, mohawk, whichever you say, cross throughout the whole thing. And we just cannot give that the same components as the other teams. It's just not fair. And so
he also has to be very careful with his death spiral positioning, because he's almost lost it several times now. Like it just needs to
at least once. Yeah,
he did lose it at least once. And I saw, like, years ago, I remember, like, I think it was Skate America, I think it was Kane Leduc, completely had their death spiral invalid because his foot slipped. Like, you are so close to that happening, if not losing it, but just losing the element. You just need a little bit more focus, I think, just a bit more refinement.
I'm so glad that we're done with the season of back outside death spirals. This is like, there are a few teams that do them well, but there's a lot of teams that just were struggling with them all year. And a lot of them that just, are not particularly aesthetically enjoyable to my mind in pursuing the levels. So I'll be happy to be.
What about the forward inside? That's even trickier. And so many of them are doing it now. When I skated pairs, it was pretty few and far between. I think Sway and Han did it, and maybe that was it at the time. Now we see a lot. They are not the most visually appealing. I respect the hustle to get them and to get the score, but I do want to shout out Elisa Efimovas, because it is gorgeous. Just so stunning. And if we're going to do it, I think that is what it should look. It just is so beautiful. And I hope that it's reflected in the grade of execution that's earned, because it is amazing and extremely hard to do. And anyway,
I liked Deanna and Max's one with the forward pivot also. That was a fun innovation. They didn't get the points for it, so they stopped doing it. But like, it was fun to see them try. So that's something that was that different and trying.
And that used to be a feature when I started skating pairs in probably 2009, 2010. It used to be a feature to do a back pivot and then switch to a forward pivot. And I think it stopped being a feature because I think it's probably easier. Like you don't have to sustain a pivot for that long. And so you're doing this difficult feature, but it's making
it's actually easier. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, but maybe not. I don't know. And respect to Ellie and Danny. Obviously he was extremely injured.
Yes. Had surgery now.
Yeah. I love what they do. I think they take I spoke about this on the stream a few times too, and it's not to discredit anybody else, but they take a difficult entry, and you could do a spiral as a difficult entry, and I did. So please know that I'm not discrediting anybody, but they do everything to the nth degree and in a more difficult way than they have to do in order for it to count. And that in turn makes it really difficult. And that's why we have to have these conversations about the Georgians versus a team like that. And obviously different strengths. Ellie and Danny for sure have work to do on the throws and some of these technical elements. And they know that, of course they know that, but I really respect what they do in terms of a whole package. And I enjoy that it's rewarded.
Yeah. And shout out to Danny and also to Valentina and Max and Emily Chan and all of the people who came to the Learn to Skate event that US Figure Skating did on the Saturday morning, because there were a gazillion people there. And it was really nice to see that they had all these members of Team USA that were like mostly the ones who were not competing, but were there anyway, who were out on the ice helping with teaching kids and doing some crowd control of those gazillion people that were on the ice. But it was a really nice event, and it was fun to see that like all of those skaters that were brought there to be part of the event in some way.
That's great. Hi, Erica.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and those are and those are great representatives for our sport too, in Val and Max and Danny and you. I think Emily, you mentioned these are great representatives to help get more people into the sport and also into pair skating. You know, the more visibility it has, the more you see it, the more people will want to do it. Obviously, only 23 pair teams when every other discipline was in the 30s, and it's incredibly difficult to put a pair team together. It's even more difficult to do it in a way that gets them so much success that they're at the World Championships. But I hope we see more of them in the future, because it is my favorite discipline, as you may know.
Yes, and with that, I want to say two things. One, shout out to Gabby Izzo and her partner for I thought doing a very respectable showing here, even, you know, it's her last place, but like I thought they actually look really good for not being together that long. And I kind of love that Gabby got to be at the like home Boston Worlds, even in a like representing Austria as a pair skater and everything. That was very fun.
It was very funny that she was asked by the media, it's like, why did you choose to represent Austria? Because my partner is Austrian.
Yes. Like, well, yes.
That makes sense.
And I also am going to give a shout out to Anton Spiridonov, who was the thrown partner in a pair, in some single pair jumps on the ice that we were watching. And it was very funny watching Valentina throw Anton, who's probably twice her height, but in his dance blades. But they were doing some good innovation.
Oh, that's really fun. You know what? I do that as a teaching method. I have my, I'll take one of my pair boys and have them throw the other one, and it helps them know what their partner is feeling and how to do that appropriately. So, and they freaking love it in a lot of cases. They want to know what that feels like.
Yeah, so they were having fun. No, that was cool.
I
know you have to go, so I won't keep you, but
I must go, but that was a lot of fun. Sorry to miss the men's event. Do you want to know my highlights before I leave?
Yes, quick, give us your men's highlights.
Okay, I'm just bringing up that, well, of course, Ilya, given, but that was magical to see live. Yuma's short was amazing. June free, Jason free, Dennis free, Andrew Torgachev short, and Roman is a sentimental fave of mine, and I love to see him put together a short and a free in a competition and have his skates and be healthy and have all these things that are required to have a great event. And I know that's quite a few. Oh, and Andreas Nordebak short.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for this.
It's beautiful.
Talk to you next time.
Thanks so much, Kirsten.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
we'll quickly move on to the men, because it is like
thank you for everyone sticking with us into hour 3 of this recap.
Yes, I have not had dinner. I am quite hungry. Okay, so in gold we have Ilya Malinin, silver we have Mikhail Shedorov, and bronze we have Yuma Kagiyama. And I've been impressed with Mikhail Shedorov all season. I think he's improved so much, but I would like that combination that he started off with, which ends in the quad. It was so springy and light and just absolutely perfect. I saw like a clip online. I think apparently like Gabrielle Frangipani's been like streaming like worlds on Twitch or whatever and reacting to it. And I saw a clip of him like he saw that and he just went and started bowing down to the combination. It's very funny, but yeah, it's just he's done an incredible job. It's at first I was like at the beginning of the season I was very like confused about the like random take on me at the end of the free skate, but at this point it's just kind of like it's kind of like how I feel with like Adam Hagara's like fade out that he used to have at the end of his free skate. It's just you end up becoming like sentimental for it, and it ends up being just like something you kind of like them for, even though it's not something you typically would like.
Yeah, there are a few odd men's music cuts that I'm like, yes, this is not technically good, but now I am slightly sentimental about it all the same. Yes, and that was definitely one of them. I love his jumps, and I love how happy he was, like, about every part of this, like that he was so happy to be getting a silver medal. And just
Yeah.
I just, again, I don't know him, and he's not someone who speaks that much English in the mix zone or anything that I would know him very well, but like he just has such a great vibe. Like seeing him around, he just seems like he's I was gonna say, like, happy to be there, and I mean that in like the most genuine way.
Yeah.
I
I remember, like, obviously I missed the preview stream because I didn't have internet. I don't think I got any of the podiums right, but I nearly got the order of the men right, although I had Yuma ahead of Shadorov. And I was kind of like going on like the momentum for Shadorov getting him onto that podium, but I was like, obviously Yuma didn't have the best free skate, so
yeah,
I almost got that podium correct.
I really felt for Yuma with the pressure, and honestly, all
Yeah.
three of the Japanese men, I felt like this was a very, very tough competition for them. And like, obviously, Yuma still, like, he did so well in the short, he still managed to come in third, even being 10th in the free. So he kept fighting for it, but that was very challenging. And then I felt like Shun was able to really hold it together and do very well here, and that he's not always been like the skater that has gotten into the top here, and he's really held his I feel like he really cemented like that he deserved to be there, he deserved to be in one of those spots, and he really like held it down for the team.
Absolutely. I was very proud of him because it's like the start of the season was very good, and then it kind of got shaky around like Universiade and stuff like that. But yeah, he really dialed in and really delivered. So yeah, very happy for him.
I love the kind of back-to-back Adam Kevin and the sort of swap of them between the short and the free was also kind of interesting because they both they both had such nice things to say about each other, and I feel like that has not always been their relationship, and I'm sure some of it not like, I'm not saying like they're best friends or they need to be best friends, but like I felt like there was this sense of like mutual respect, and like the French team really like holding together as the French team and being proud of themselves, and they've all made a point to like not just mention each other, but like the other members of the French team as being like part of their support network. And I thought that was really nice. I mean, because it's great to have these two strong and very different men, and thought that was very, very cool for them to be able to both do well in a competition.
Yeah. And a potential third spot is, I mean, it's going to be hard to earn, but the fact that they even managed to achieve that, especially considering like there's kind of this trend of if one does well, the other doesn't, kind of thing going on between them, that they both managed to succeed here and bring their best. Obviously, Adam's had injuries this season, and Kevin's been up and down, but this was a very optimal shot, especially considering the news that Adam's boot broke like after his first jump in the free skate. Just like, how did you manage to keep it together to do the rest of that skate?
He showed us that where it was like broken on the boot, and there was just like, it's like right around the ankle bend, there was just like a place where it's supposed to be stiff that was not. It was just like,
and now he's going to be like wearing in new skates to go to World Team Trophy.
Yes.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I have to do an apology for Jason Brown because I did not believe in him prior to and like when the Grand Prix happened and he missed nationals, I did not think he would be able to get back up to this level so quickly again, to be so competitive and so on it. And he did, and he proved why he was the best option to send, because if he hadn't been sent, they probably wouldn't have got 3 spots.
And Jason, in like the nicest possible way, kind of said a little "I told you so." Like he was just like,
he was
when have I ever not delivered when
when it was really important?
Which was kind of beautiful, because I'm sure he had his own doubts and everything to go through, but like that was, That was a really nice moment. And I loved that I was not so sure about the Spiegel and Spiegel program at the beginning of the year. It felt like too soon right after Shoma had done it, and too much to do it as a whole program. And like I was kind of, it really, really worked here. And I loved the costumes so much. That was just like the night sky, and I was just like, oh, this is just beautiful. So I completely enjoyed that. Fourth best free skate.
Yeah. Those programs were not my favorite for Jason this season. I think he's capable of much more impactful programs than what he had this year. I think bringing back Riverdance for the gala was perfect. Absolutely perfect. So I'd be really interested to see what he does for the Olympic season, but it's interesting to see at the beginning of the season I was very much doubting his place on the Olympic team, and I don't think there's any doubt about that now.
No.
Ilya and Jason are a lock.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I was so impressed with that. And Andrew, unfortunately, really fell apart here.
The Andrew of old days.
Yeah. And I want to think that that's a fluke, but it's hard because he's been so consistent the rest of this year. But fortunately, Jason did well enough that it won't matter too much. But that was a tough one. I really enjoyed June here, even though I don't like June's short program. I still just I watched a lot of him in practice, just with the way the groups worked out. I didn't watch a huge amount of practice overall, but I did get to see a couple of his practices, and I was thinking about how much I enjoyed watching him in practice, just his skating skills and and like when he lands his jumps, they're very satisfying. And like some skaters that don't do much in their practices, and for some reason I just felt like my eye would always go right to him, even among the group of other men. And I've always liked June, but not always like felt like he had the programs or something that like made him stand out to me, that I would be like especially rooting for him. And something about him at this competition, I felt like I was just extra drawn to him.
He's felt like very settled since after like the Asian Winter Games. He's felt very confident again. I feel like with all the injury issues and the boot issues, there's been one thing or another that's hampered him for the last couple of seasons, and he kind of feels like he's back to his best form again now.
I already said at the beginning, but I was so proud of Dennis in his free skate.
Yes.
I thought that was so wonderful. And he had a big mistake in the short and just was not where he was mentally ready for it. And in the most Dennis moment ever, decided that what he needed to do to clear his head was to go for a walk in the rain to the arena, leaving like his stuff with his coaches and just like go walk by himself and get really cold and then go into feeling the warmth of the arena, and it like wiped it clean for him, and he was able to go out and perform like that, which was, as he was explaining this to us, I was like, yes, this is the most Dennis thing to do. And it worked. So
one of my favorite like non on ice moments of the competition was the footage of Dennis sat in the leader's chair during like the resurface, like singing along and waving his like camera light, like phone light around. It was the funniest thing, just like him singing along to like Don't Stop Believing. He was just having the best time. It was so good.
I was not a fan of the leader's chair as a general concept, but that
was great. Just a Dennis chair at every competition. We don't need a leader chair, just a Dennis chair.
That was really fun, and I'm glad this was probably the last time that he's going to do that program, and it was a really special program, so I'm glad that he got to end it on like really accomplishing what he wanted to do with it. And then I'm just looking through my others here, just thinking about who I wanted to make sure to mention. I mentioned a little bit
because obviously coming off of winning Europeans, you don't necessarily want to finish 12th, but considering between that time of Europeans and now, he managed to slice his butt open at Art on Ice, have to have surgery on it, and then spend some time off it, and then get back on the ice again. It was never going to be like optimal preparation for this competition, but it's still a fairly solid result.
Yes, and he said that he had a knee injury as well. That he's
yes, I saw him say he was going to take time off to get that.
Yeah, so I was glad that he was able to do as well as he did. I feel like Adam Hagara also stood out to me with 2 very solid programs, a great free skate here, and just like really putting himself solidly in that group of senior men here. And then I was also just going to say really proud of Tomas Guarino Sabate. I thought, you know, I think, yes, he had 2 personal bests here. And really, you know, the crowd loved him, and it was just exactly what you want for a skater like him to be able to have that kind of moment. And I felt like he performed like to his best or more than his best, which was he was definitely not a lock for getting an Olympic spot, and he has.
No,
now he
it's
has
only
one.
like 1 placement less than what he got at Europeans, and that considering the field is so much bigger here than Europeans, it's incredible that he did such a good job.
And I felt like for so many people, this was, you know, that this competition was just so hard, and like the vibes coming in were just heavy. And it felt like as the competition went on, that it helped with the crowd and just the general energy. And as people started to have a little bit of that relief and pressure off of them, it got better. But he was one of the few that I felt like came in and just was like really just rose to the occasion to the best of his ability, and that's really it's a nice thing to watch.
Yeah, agreed.
And just have to say, I felt very sorry for that Donovan Carrillo did not manage to make the free skate. That was
especially like knowing how much he's improved in the last few years, and obviously he had a great result last year. I'm hopeful he's going to get one of the spots in Beijing. I really hope he does. He'll be one of the ones I'm most anxious about going into that competition, because I know he can do it. It's just a case of whether it happens on the day or not.
Exactly. And that's a lot of anxiety there for him. And, you know, I was also sad for Kirilo Marsak, who I, again, watched a lot of practices of and felt like he has really improved. He looked very solid in the practices, and then just didn't happen in the competition. And of course, like, you know, I feel like I could probably say that for any of these skaters. Like, I think the more that I start to the stories of a few skaters, the more it makes me aware that just like everyone is going through so much and has so much pressure on them. So like, you know, I can't know or talk about all of that, but I felt like
I'm aware that
has improved.
Edward has changed his coaching team since Europeans, and that's not a long time to get used to a different coach and different processes. But obviously he's with Christopher Boyaji now, which Kristen Spors is and Julia Sota is, and it's worked out great for them. They look so much more comfortable in themselves, and I think hopefully that will be the same with Edward once he gets used to it. It's just a case of him managing to put together a whole program, and I was so impressed by how much better his spins looked. It's just a case of getting everything all together now. But like his spins are the one thing I've been pinpointing that he really needed to improve, and they already looked a lot better.
I mean, and he'll get their chance, but I am very happy. He's another skater that I'm thrilled could get to go to compete in the team event, and that I feel like that has been such a great opportunity for skaters in the past who maybe, you know, they weren't able to make it themselves, but then they were able to go as part of the team. And I feel like I'm just, you know, I'm thinking about people like, and like Laura Naki Gutman or there's like some of these people that were like, not, you know, they really rose to the occasion for their team, and then that helped them with the next quad a lot. So anyway, there's a few people that I've noticed in that potential category, and so well, what a competition.
The end.
I'm gonna leave my last couple of world's thoughts were just I want to say thank you to everybody in the World's audience who brought pride flags to wave for all of the skaters, and especially the ones who did it for Amber, because that's when I was noticing it the most, and I almost teared up because I was having so much, like, the US right now is a hard place to be.
It's not great.
I was really I was genuinely moved by that in the moment. And then from the sublime to the ridiculous, these light up boards are such a terrible idea. All of the photos from this event, even the ones when people managed to not make it look buzzy in the background, they just look bad. I want the whiteboards back.
Yeah.
Or like if they're gonna have it light up, like can they do it the way they did it in the gala? Like they can't make it be multicolored. Like,
yeah, it needs to be like formulaic. There was just so many different bright colors going on that it just looked a mess.
3 different colors of different reds and bright.
I get that people have their branding and they've bought their branding, but
yeah,
coordinate things better. There's
got to be. I want to say, again, like, I'm not a fan of leadership share, I'm not a fan of that. I did like the running out, but like there are things that I'm all for innovation. Like the ISU is trying new things and trying to make things better.
Yeah.
Like, great. Try new things, love it. Some of these ideas, not a fan of, and I also don't love that skaters only learn about them like when they get to the competition.
Yeah.
These new procedures.
Like you should at least be like kind of sending out surveys asking people's opinions on.
Yeah, so hopefully,
ideas.
I mean, they had an athlete forum, and some other opportunities for feedback, and I hope people took advantage of those. And then, my last comment was just going to be that they had a calm zone for the skaters in the
I saw that.
hotel,
I saw them with some dogs.
With some therapy dogs, and it was highly appreciated by the skaters, and I hope that others take that into account, that, yes, all of the mental health support is wonderful, and that some golden retrievers you can hug after you've had a bad skate are especially appreciated. So, hopefully we'll get more of that at other competitions.
Yeah. Okay, so winding down now. Obviously you have an interview coming out soon that we will sort out. I will put a post on the website about all the Olympic spots that have been earned so far, because I was going to do a tweet like I did for my world ones, but there's a lot more information involved in the Olympic spots, so it's easier for me to do a website post.
I'll be glad to be able to go back and refer to it on the website as well. And I think
we will have our own awards at some point after World Team Trophy. So that will kick off, and we usually do.
Let us know if you have ideas for categories for things for the Anything GOE awards.
Put in. But yeah, we usually do an original 2 weeks for initial nominations, then 2 weeks for the final votes.
World Team Trophy.
I don't know if we're doing a stream for World Team Trophy or not, but that is coming up.
But that is coming.
I do have thoughts about bringing people out of retirement for Georgia. So I just want to say we have had, obviously we do have some new people coming in all the time, but we do like to cultivate a positive atmosphere with these streams, and the guests are very kind to come on here and talk to us about skating. Please keep comments. You can be constructive with your criticism, but please don't be mean or rude about the guests we have. We have had to delete a few comments that have been left recently. No stream is going to be perfect because we're doing this live. It's sometimes hard to coordinate our responses to one another, so sometimes there is talking over each other. The nicest thing is to be polite and nice. That's how we kind of want to run things here. Don't be mean or rude, especially about the guests. That's just something we wanted to say. But
and I feel like all of our usual things apply. Please subscribe to our Patreon. Yes. I think we're going to release the transcript of the Ice Dance technical meeting for any of you nerds out there as a Patreon post, and a few other things.
We'll have other things out. I have plans for some things to do, like for the YouTube, and maybe, I don't know, for the Patreon at some point. Over the off season, we'll see if they come to fruition or not. But yeah, like and subscribe, support our stuff. It helps us go to competitions and create more. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And we will see you soon. Bye.